Emma thought the tension would fade once the ink on the prenup dried, but in some ways it lingered like a faint shadow. At first, everything seemed perfect. The wedding was flawless, laughter, dancing, and whispered promises beneath a sky full of stars. Their honeymoon was everything they had dreamed of, full of quiet moments and shared adventures. But now and then, she'd catch Daniel looking at her in a way she couldn't quite read. One night, as they unpacked from the trip, Daniel paused, holding one of her business awards in his hand. "You've built so much," he said softly. "I just hope I'm not another project for you." Emma froze. She told him he wasn't. He was her partner, her equal in every way that mattered. But deep down, she wondered if he really believed that. Life settled into a rhythm. Emma threw herself back into her company, often working late. Daniel took on more art commissions and began building a name for himself in the local scene. They supported each other, but the prenup was like an unspoken line neither wanted to cross. Things changed the day Emma faced her first major business crisis. A deal she'd been counting on collapsed, leaving her company in a vulnerable position. She was stressed, distant, and short-tempered. Daniel, trying to help, suggested dipping into her personal savings temporarily, but when she hesitated, his expression hardened. "It's your money," he said. "I get it." That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She realized the prenup, which she'd thought of as a shield, had quietly shaped the way they saw each other. Decisions weren't just about us anymore. They were about yours and mine. Still, they loved each other deeply. Daniel surprised her one weekend with a trip to a small cabin in the mountains. "No work, no phone, just us," he said. For a few days, it was like old times. They cooked together, laughed until their stomachs hurt, and watched the stars from the porch. Emma thought maybe, just maybe, they'd turned a corner. But then, over a quiet breakfast, Daniel asked, "Do you ever think about what would happen if we didn't work out?" The question caught her off guard. She told him she didn't want to think like that, but the truth was, she had, more than once. The prenup had planted that possibility in their minds from day one. And yet, sometimes what begins as a safety net can turn into a cage. Was this agreement protecting their love, or slowly suffocating it? Before we dive into what happened next, the turning point that would define their marriage, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We share powerful, thought-provoking stories every day, stories that will make you see love, trust, and commitment in a whole new light. Emma stirred her coffee slowly, staring out the window of their kitchen. Daniel's question from that morning in the cabin wouldn't leave her mind. She had brushed it off at the time, changing the subject to the weather, but the truth was, it had rattled her. They had been married less than 2 years, and already the thought of, "if we didn't work out," had slipped into the conversation like an uninvited guest. Back in the city, the rhythm of life resumed. Emma buried herself in work, determined to pull her company out of its slump. Daniel, meanwhile, became more withdrawn. He still loved her, still supported her in public, but at home there was a subtle shift. Fewer lingering touches, less laughter over dinner, more silence. One evening she found him in his studio, staring at an unfinished painting. "What's wrong?" she asked. He hesitated, then said, "Sometimes I feel like I'm not your partner. I'm a protected investment, like you signed the prenup, not because you didn't trust me, but because you always expected this to end." Emma's heart sank. She tried to explain it wasn't like that she had been advised to do it, that it was about protecting her life's work, not doubting him. But she could see in his eyes that her words didn't fully reach him. The cracks grew wider. Small disagreements about money, things they would have laughed off before, now felt loaded. When Emma offered to cover a big expense for his art show, he refused, saying he didn't want her charity. When Daniel treated them to a weekend getaway, she noticed him checking his account balance afterward, as if every dollar had to prove something. One night, a particularly heated argument erupted. Daniel accused her of hiding things from him, financial decisions, business risks, because she didn't trust him with the full picture. She fired back that he was twisting everything, that the prenup hadn't changed her love for him one bit. But the moment the words left her mouth, she realized they were both defending themselves against something deeper. The prenup hadn't just been a piece of paper. It had become a lens through which they saw each other. Every act of generosity, every financial conversation was filtered through the question of ownership and independence. And then came the news that would shake their already fragile marriage to its core, something neither of them could have prepared for. It started with a phone call late at night. Emma answered the phone, her voice groggy. On the other end was Daniel's sister, her tone urgent and shaky. "Emma, it's about Daniel. He's in the hospital." Her heart dropped. She didn't even wait for details. She threw on a coat, grabbed her keys, and sped through the empty streets. At the hospital, she found Daniel in a bed, pale but conscious. He'd been in a car accident on his way home from an art supply store. Nothing life-threatening, but his leg was broken in 2 places, and his shoulder was badly injured. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Daniel couldn't paint, couldn't walk without assistance, and suddenly their dynamic shifted completely. Emma was the one paying for extra home care, handling the medical bills, managing every appointment. She didn't think twice about it. This was her husband, the man she loved. But she noticed something in Daniel's eyes whenever she handed over her credit card or signed a check, a flicker of discomfort. Pride and gratitude tangled together. One afternoon, as she was organizing his medication, he said quietly, "If it weren't for that prenup, I'd feel like I could lean on you without shame. But now, every time you help me, I wonder if I'm just another responsibility you protected yourself from." His words cut deep. Emma knelt beside him, her voice trembling. "Daniel, that paper doesn't define us. I would burn it tomorrow if it meant you'd believe I'm here for you." Completely. But he shook his head. "It's not about the paper anymore. It's about what it did to us, how it made us see each other." Days turned into months, and slowly, the physical wounds began to heal. But the emotional ones remained raw. Daniel returned to painting, though with less energy than before. Emma threw herself into work, chasing growth as if success could fix what was broken between them. Then, one evening, as they sat in their living room, Daniel revealed something that took Emma's breath away. "I met with a lawyer today," he said. "I asked him to tear up the prenup. I don't want it. Not anymore." Emma felt a surge of emotions, relief, fear, hope, but also a question burning inside her. Would removing the prenup heal them, or expose just how much damage had already been done? That question wouldn't stay unanswered for long. The decision they made next would change everything. Forever. Emma stared at Daniel, her mind racing. For months, she had wished for this moment, for him to see beyond the paper, to choose trust over protection. But now that it was here, she hesitated. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. "This isn't just about proving a point." Daniel shook his head. This is about us. If we're going to make this work, we can't keep living with a safety net between us. Marriage is supposed to be all in. and I want to be all in. The next week, they sat together in a lawyer's office, signing the documents that officially voided the prenup. The pen felt heavy in Emma's hand, but when she put it down, she noticed something: Daniel's smile. It wasn't a triumphant grin. It was peaceful. For a while, it felt like the air between them had cleared. They laughed more, spent evenings in the studio together, and even planned a small vacation. Emma thought maybe, just maybe, the shadows had lifted. But trust is a fragile thing. A few months later, Daniel's art career took off in an unexpected way. A viral social media post brought commissions flooding in, and soon he was earning more in a month than he had in the last 2 years combined. At first, they celebrated together. But then Emma started to feel it, that shift again. Only this time, the roles were reversed. Daniel began paying for everything. He insisted on covering trips, dinners, even small purchases. "Let me take care of it," he'd say with a warm smile, but there was something else in his tone, a subtle reminder that now he could. One night, Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling, and the truth hit her. It was never really about the prenup. The paper had only been a mirror, reflecting the insecurities they both carried. Without trust, no agreement, signed or shredded, could fix what was wrong. She turned to Daniel and whispered, "If we don't learn to believe in each other, it doesn't matter what's in our bank accounts or on legal papers. We'll lose what matters most." Daniel took her hand, and in that quiet moment, they both understood. Love wasn't in the safety nets or the risks. It was in the choice they made every day to stay, to believe, to fight for the us they wanted to be. If you've stayed with us through this story, take a moment to think about your own relationships. Are you protecting yourself from hurt so much that you're also protecting yourself from love? Make the choice to trust, to talk, to truly commit. And if you enjoyed this story, subscribe to our channel for daily videos that bring you powerful life lessons and stories worth remembering. Because sometimes the right story can change the way you live your own.